welcome. I'm Cynthia Corsetti, executive coach, author, and speaker based in Sewickley, Pennsylvania. With years of experience in guiding leaders to realize their full potential, I've embarked on a new journey to bring those insights to a wider audience. Care to Lead, a podcast dedicated to diving deep into the world of leadership. In each 30-minute episode, I sit down with inspiring individuals from diverse backgrounds to explore pivotal moments in their leadership journeys, the challenges they face in today's ever-evolving business landscape, and the legacy they aspire to leave behind. Together, we uncover valuable lessons and insights that can empower each one of us to lead with purpose, compassion, and resilience. So whether you're a seasoned leader or just starting your journey, join me as we discover what it truly means to care to lead. Welcome to the Care to Lead podcast. Today, we're going to talk about a topic that is very near and dear to me, things from our childhood that impact how we lead. I created this series for Authority Magazine because in the process of writing my own upcoming book, Dark Drivers, I recognized that in addition to the stories of my own clients that are shared throughout the book, there are many, many, many stories that are out there that need to be heard. Today's guest, Nikki T. Anthony, is a part of this series, and her article has been very well received. Her story is compelling, and I'm really excited to speak with her today. With that, let me introduce you to Nikki T. Anthony. Nikki is well known as the multi-faceted author of the young adult novel, The Price We Pay. She is also a serial entrepreneur, literary consultant, and most importantly, she serves as a role model for resilience as she has overcome her own personal challenges. Nikki transformed her personal experiences of being an underserved, troubled teen into being a motivator for the marginalized. She's never allowed what was once known as an impoverished environment stop her. Nikki, thank you so much for joining me today. Let's begin by asking if there's anything I missed in this introduction.
Well, thank you, first of all. Foremost, thank you for having me. I think you summed it up. You definitely summed me up. But the most important thing is I'm resilient. I'm determined. So I think that of all of the accolades that you mentioned, resilience is the biggest one. Yeah. So
that's your core value and
yes.
your driving force, huh?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I'm curious, when it comes to resilience, what do you want young people to know?
I want young people just to remember never to give up. It's not where you start, it's always where you finish. And I speak from experience myself. Throughout my career, I've been super transparent, about being a troubled teen. I grew up on the south side of Chicago in a impoverished environment in a housing project. For those who were fortunate enough not to know what a housing project is, it is a low income environment that it's extremely poverty ridden, and it has very little resources. However, I did not allow those things to stop me from becoming what I wanted to be, despite my surroundings, despite not having a role model, despite not having the proper influences to encourage me. So that's my mission, just to inspire young people that even when you don't have someone else rooting you on, you have you have yourself. So never to give up, just keep going, keep striving, keep moving. And it's definitely not how you start, it's how you finish.
Nikki, you said in the article that you were raised by your great grandmother. Can you tell me a little more about that? What was that like?
Well, yeah, sure. I like my great grandmother. She was older. She was in her late 70s. She was definitely older. I didn't stay in the home with my mom. Although I didn't stay in the home with my mom, I did see my mom, often, but I did not have a good relationship with my mom. I stayed with my grandmother from the age of 7, actually. And she didn't have much. She was on a fixed income, and she did what she could. Myself and my sister stayed with her, and she was on Social Security, food stamps, and what she had, she did the best that she could. But as I became older, I started to feel like, especially when I went into high school, I started to feel like it just wasn't enough, you know. And I did not look like other kids. I did not have the other things that the my peers had. You know, when it came to toiletries, when it came to clothing, when it came to just life experiences, like I did not have those things. And not having those things prompted me to lash out. It prompted me to act out. It prompted me to run away. But although I did all of those things, and it also, not having my mom in the household, it played an extreme role in my behavior. Um, but my grandmother never gave up on me. She continued to encourage me. So, you know, although I did all of those things to hurt her, she continued to inspire me to keep going. You are better than what you doing. You can do. You know. So it's she definitely left a huge mark in my life.
That's awesome. You also shared that you kind of immersed yourself in reading from a
Yeah.
very young age. What were some of the books? I did the same thing when I was very young. I remember one of the books that I read that just I loved was called The Boxcar Children. And it's probably way before your time, but it was a whole series of books that about these children that grew up in this boxcar. And
Mhm.
I know what it was like to just like fall into a world and kind of just be taken away. And I'm guessing with the way you were growing up, that was probably a great respite for you. Can you tell us more about that and what books especially touched you?
Yeah, sure. So at that time, when I was a teenager, street literature was like the hottest thing that everybody was reading. But I did not want to read street literature because I felt like I was living street literature every single day. I saw that every single day, so I wanted to read something that was different. So I took like an alternative route, and I loved romance. But one of the things that I loved the most was Terry McMillan. It was called Disappearing Acts. And it was very different from what, you know, my peers was reading. But I love the way that the author, well, the descriptions. She was super descriptive. The characters were older, and I love the fact that the character Zora, she did not judge her love interest. She met him what he was, and that was really intriguing to me. But that those experience was also because I saw so much poverty every single day, and I knew that my grandmother did not have much. I knew also that I did not belong in that place. I just did not know how I would remove myself from that place. So I use literature as a way to escape, you know, and find new surroundings and new environments. And if the author was really good, you know, I could smell the surroundings. I could hear the characters' voices, you know. And I would do that every single day. I would go to the public library that was across the street from me, and I would literally escape there from 9 until sundown, maybe 5 or 6 p.m. in the day. And I would just repeat it the next day. But it was definitely my escape. It allowed me to visit other worlds that I would not necessarily visit in the environment or the circumstances that I was in at that time. So it was definitely the beginning of my career. And I didn't even know it, you know. So yeah.
So tell me, as you went to write your book, that was it when you sat down to write, did you think about that little girl in the library that you used to be and you said, where do I want to take my readers? What's the journey I want some other little girl in a library? What's the journey I want to take her on?
Yes, I definitely, whenever I do anything pertaining to literature, I always think of that little girl in the library. Whenever I want to, whether it's literature, whether it's, you know, a new business venture, I always think of that young lady that visited the library every single day. And I do that because it's a sense of realism to me, right? So it's so many other young girls out here that are experiencing what I experienced. There's so many other young girls that are me, which is one of the reasons why I titled the tour that I'm on Girls Like Me Tour, because I want to touch girls that are like me, girls who are ambitious, girls who are determined, girls who they do have optimism, like they do have dreams, they do have hope. So whenever I do anything, I definitely channel that inner girl that would visit that library every single day. And I always, think of it from that aspect. What would she do? And I hold that girl. I hold her dear. I hold her really dear. She reminds me of where I started in the humble beginnings, and just to never give up. And she also reminds me of how far I have come, how I got here. She's a very big part of the character that I am today, and she plays an extreme amount of an extreme role in how I lead, and she plays a extreme role in how I operate. So everything I do with her in mind.
That's awesome. Tell me about some of the, you describe yourself as a serial entrepreneur. Tell me a little bit about some of the businesses and that you've run and you've started, and how that little girl played a part in each of those.
Well, yeah, sure. Another one of the business that I have is a cosmetic company, which is titled Library of Colors Cosmetics. And even for that business, that little girl plays an extreme role in that one as well, because it is a cosmetic line for beginners, and it's one of the missions is to learn to love your flaws and then color them in. And as a teenager, I was actually bullied. Another one of the reasons why I didn't like to go to school, because I was always picked on, I was always teased because I have like a dark pigmentation around my eyes, and other kids would call me black eyed peas, and it affected me a great deal. And it was almost as if a lot of them didn't even want to know my name. It was like a second nature name for a lot of them. So I created that cosmetic line as a way to say for other young girls, it's okay to have flaws, and it's okay to love those flaws, but it's also okay to love to color them in, if you want to feel beautiful, more beautiful, because you're already beautiful, if you want to color those flaws in, that is okay as well. So that's another business venture that is inspired by that girl in the library.
I love that. So let's dive deeper into the price we pay.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about where it came from, what made you inspired to write it, and the lesson you hope people get from it.
Yeah, sure. So the price we pay, one of the reasons why I wrote it was because of what we experience on a day to day. But the huge reason was a lot of the things that we experience as far as racism, as far as systematic racism, it's our youth that's experiencing a great deal. We had Trayvon Martin, we had Tamir Rice. Like those were our youth, and that was one of the reasons why. And it was something that it was happening. It was almost as if it was surreal, because it was happening so much, and it shouldn't happen to anyone. But what was so disheartening was that it was happening to teenagers. It was happening to children, and that's what encouraged me to write the book. The character herself, she is told from the perspective of a 15-year-old Black teenager whom herself she experiences a rash of deliberate attacks against both herself, against her family, that are racially motivated, which in turn it does cause her to lose a loss of faith in humanity. So definitely the book was inspired based off of a lot of the traumatic experiences that we've seen, in the media, a lot of real life events that we saw, play out over our eyes that's happened to the youth over the last couple of years, the trajectory of that time. So those were things that definitely inspired the novel.
One of the characters that I found interesting was the father of your main character. Tell me more
Yes.
about that character.
Yes, I think that everyone finds Herschel really interesting. But definitely Herschel is the only Black police officer on the Buzzardville Police Department, and he prides himself in being so. But he rules with an iron fist. And a lot of readers are like, I just don't like that Herschel, because of the way that he rules, because of the way that he treats his daughter. But that's also it's a realism for uh Black households. It's a realism for Black households. It's a realism for Black fathers. A lot of us, we do experience that. And although a lot of people were, felt like his character it was a harsh character. He wasn't loving to his daughter. He wasn't accepting to his daughter. But that it's not TV. Like for us, it's not TV. Like a lot of young Black girls don't have that father-daughter relationship that we think they should have. But for Zanetta, that is real life for a lot of minority households. For the men to feel like they have to rule with an iron fist. What they say go, and the women have to accept it. And that's something that Zanetta and both her mom Odessa experienced. They felt as if they had to accept those things. That the dad, whenever he felt like he laid down the law, that was it. But that's the realism of minority households. That's what we deal with on a day-to-day basis.
So if a young Black father were to read your book, what would be the takeaway you would want for him to walk away from with that in reading about Herschel?
That it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to not have it all figured out. It's okay to, and I think that it comes from a place of almost trauma bonding, and it comes of because it comes from their own childhoods as well. Because as a child, those experiences mold us. They mold who we become in the coming years. And I would want fathers to read it and take away that it's okay to be more gentle. It's okay to have more empathy, especially for your young girls. It's you don't have to treat them as if they are like in minorities households, boys get it a little easier, but you would think that young ladies would. And it forces us to be stronger than we have to be, honestly. So I would want them to just definitely take away to have more empathy, be a little softer, a little kinder, and because those things definitely mold what a young lady becomes in the future. Her experiences with her dad, it molds her.
Mm-hmm. And in your story, that your young lady's father kind of betrayed her.
Yes.
You want to talk any more about that and why you added that piece into the story?
Yeah, sure. I mean, and although he made it, he made it right. He thought that what was,
Yeah.
he thought that what he done was the right thing to do. But in reality, he could have gone about it a better way. And I think that throughout the book, even for the dad, that's why it's important for us to be able to sit down and have important, tough conversations. Sometimes we think that the way that we're going about something is the right way, but in reality, it's not. And a lot of times, a simple conversation could have just taken or taken into retrospect, like, okay, well, I understand why you did this, but that's not the route that he chose to take. He chose to take the route that he take without giving it away. He chose to take another route, and it ultimately cost him nearly his family. So I chose to place that piece there to show how it's very important to see other perspectives, another individual's perspective, and not just see your own perspective, because your own perspective could very well, it could be detrimental, and it does not just affect you, it affects others. It's a domino effect. It's almost like a ripple effect. So that was one of the reasons why I did place that there, that amount of betrayal there. Although he makes it right, so to speak, toward the end, I just wanted to place that there to kind of give readers the place that thought on their mind, like, sometimes we have to stop and think because our choices do affect other people.
Nikki, tell me about your tour that you're on right now. Tell me a little bit more about that and who you're reaching out to and what kind of questions are you getting?
Yeah, sure. So the Girls Like Me tour is the title of the tour, and it's basically a seed tour, and it reminds young adult females that when empowered, she too can rewrite her story. And that was something that the character Zanetta had to do for herself. You know, even after the betrayal of her own father, she needed to find a way to rewrite her own story. She did not have a lot of influences around, you know, like she had the neighbor, Gussie Mae, she had her mom, she had Miss Steffens, but she did not have anyone who she could really talk to. So anyone who she could really sit down and have those hard conversations with, because she was forced to be so tough and just kind of forced to, you know, go along to get along, you know. So that is the reason for the tour. It's definitely a seed tour, and it's to remind young girls like Zanetta, you know, just to, you can rewrite your own story. A lot of questions that I'm getting from it is just why, well, you know, like why this tour, and it's really to motivate the marginalized. You know, I was once marginalized. I speak from experience. I did not have that positive role model or that positive female figure or anyone that I could talk to or speak to about the things that I was going through. And I just want to be able to be that person, whether it be through conversation, whether it be through activity, whether it be through, you know, just meeting me in person. You know, the young girls that I'm meeting on the tour, they are amazing. And I'm not surprised. Like, I've had young girls like just sit and cling to me at signings, you know, and that's okay because that is the intention of it. You know, you never know what young girls are going through in their, you know, in their homes, in their school life, in their personal lives. So I just wanted to be a safe space for young adult females, you know, to come, to laugh, to grow, to question, to talk, you know. Just I just really wanted to be a safe space. So it's more than just a book tour for me. It's a seed tour.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned several times that you want to show young girls that they can rewrite their future. What are
Yes.
some of the steps that you would encourage someone, the specific takeaways that, like, this is where you begin, this is how you begin to rewrite your future?
Stay determined. Do not allow anyone to tell you what you cannot do. Do not allow anyone to tell you it cannot be done. Have optimism. Be extremely optimistic. Never look at a glass as if it's half empty. Always look at it as if it's half full. You stay encouraged, stay empowered, affirm yourself. You know, like those are some of the things that I had to do as a young adult myself. And positive affirmations are extremely strong. They're extremely powerful, and they do work. You know, they definitely do work. So I think that when you start with, it starts with your mind. It starts with what you think, you know. It starts with how you feel. So if you can change how you think and you can change how you feel, then you can change the outcome of what you'll be. That is where you start. You know, like anyone can desire to be anywhere in the world. Anyone can desire to do anything, but your mindset has to change first. And if your mindset changes that I can do this, I am determined, I am enough, I am strong enough, I am willful. Your mindset, if you when you affirm yourself, nothing and no one around you, nobody around you can tell you what you cannot do. That's where you start. You start here.
And how would you tell a young woman, like at your own past, when you were in
Mhm.
those situations where you felt hopeless? How would a young woman go about beginning to change a mindset from there? Because it's so, we're creatures of habit, and it's so
Mhm.
easy to fall back into the darkness
Mhm.
when you're saying they need to change that mindset. What can a young girl do to propel herself into that positive mindset?
Do the opposite of what you're used to. For me, it was reading. It was, and it wasn't just fiction. I slowly gravitated from fiction to self-help to business, like reading will, it'll blow your mind. It'll take you to an entire new world. So that is where I always recommend anyone to start. Self-help is amazing. It's an amazing start. Business, learning about different ways to do business, reading other stories that are similar to your own, of what you experience, what you're going through. Those things are helpful. People always want to, they gravitate to what they are like-minded, or what's relatable to them. So follow those who are relatable to you. Reach out to them, contact them. A lot of people don't bite, like surprisingly, a lot of people like me, I answer DMs all the time, and so many people are just like, "Oh my God, I was so shocked that you're so nice, and I wasn't expecting it." Reach out, find you someone who you would consider your role model. Find you someone who you would consider, that you admire, that you look up to, and you reach out to that person. Get you a mentor, someone who can mentor you, who can guide you, who can help you and kind of steer you on the right path. But it's so many ways. So I would definitely say that reaching out, finding that someone who you admire, who inspires you, reach out to that person, get yourself a mentor, read more, dive more into, depending on what it is you want to do. I always tell people, if you're sick, don't go to a hospital. Like, do the total opposite. If you want to be rich, you don't hang around, don't stay around the poor. Get around the rich. Like, you know what I mean? Like, always do the opposite of what it is that you want to do. So that's positively affirming yourself. So that's the best advice that I can give anyone. Do the opposite of what you want to do. You can't stay in the same environments that are making you sick. Like, you won't get well, you will not heal.
Right. One of the things as you were speaking that came to my mind is that with social media the way it is right now, because you're saying for these girls to find role models and to
Mm-hmm.
find mentors, how can they be sure that the role models and the mentors they're finding, especially in the world of social media when everything is blown out of proportion, and you might look at somebody who seems to have it all together,
Mm-hmm.
they don't. So how can they protect themselves in that, and how could they make sure that the mentors and role models they're finding are authentic?
Absolutely. Because, and something you just said, a lot of people are not who they post to be. They just aren't. We live in this fabricated world. I always tell people, don't gravitate. For me personally, a big red flag for me is people who try to sell you with the flesh, with the lifestyle. Like, that's a rule of thumb for me, right? So,
Mhm.
because a lot of people use that as like a marketing tactic. They'll use like the flashy cars, or the flashy homes, or the jewelries, or the vacation, or
The
things of that.
airplanes and all of
Yeah,
that.
the airplanes, or the pictures on the private jets, and
Yeah.
but that they're selling you with the flesh, and you cannot follow that. So for me, I gravitate more to people who look like me, who talk like me, who think like me. They don't have to have a pound of makeup to get on, go on a live and have a conversation, like, and I know that this is like super controversial, but it's a young lady that I love and I follow her, and she has so much, and I've learned so much from her over the years. But when I first followed her, she had on a bonnet on her head. She was lying in bed. She had a bonnet on her head. And she talked about, the experiences she went through, and, how she went to prison, and, for a conviction, a drug conviction. Like, she was authentic. She was real, like, and she was not trying to sell me with the flesh. she was trying to relate to me. So I always like to just remind people to steer away from people who are trying to sell you with the flesh. And you are saying, oh, I desire to be like that person. I want the airplane. I want the fancy car. I want the jewelry. A lot of things are smoke and mirrors, right? And even salt looks like sugar. So you have to be extremely careful of what you're taking in. Find people who are marketing to you in a relatable way, not a way to sell to your flesh, you know. For me, I've gravitated towards young ladies who are like, hey, I was on food stamps, you know. I've been there myself, you know. I worked 2 jobs. I've been there myself. I've had a job, started a business and had to go back to work. I've been there myself, you know. So all of those things are things that I gravitate towards, people who look like me, who are relatable to me, and they aren't trying to sell me with the flesh. So that is my recommendation. Pay attention to people who are trying to sell you with the flesh.
Do you have an online community where young girls are reaching out to you and that you're getting on and doing lives and so on and speaking to these young girls, or just is it just on your tour right now?
Actually, and you know what? And what's crazy is that I've gotten this question a couple of times. It's really just on my tour, but I also take like I take a lot of emails. I've even gotten into like taking personal calls, you know, just being a listening ear, especially like I have an eye for and a knack for just kind of spotting out like troubled teens, you know, or people who just really young ladies who really just want to have someone to talk to or vent to. So because there has been like an uptick in outreach as far as like our emails or our website, we are building out something soon. We're building it out right now. We'll release it soon, so that the young ladies have a safe space and they actually have a community where they'll be able to come and they'll not only be able to share and converse with me in that safe space, but also other young ladies who are within their age group, who they can speak to, who they can have a conversation with, who may be experiencing some of the same things. So sort of like a sisterhood, you know, and not just for the young ladies. The program will actually be for young adults and also the moms as well, because it'll also kind of teach the moms, you know, hey, this sometimes we have to change the way we think as well, you know, because that's where it starts at. It starts at home. So it's not just for young adults. The program will definitely be to encourage the moms to join, come along and learn how to be girl moms, you know, learn how to talk to your teens, have these comfortable conversations, something that I did not have. And I really want to, for me, I set out to be the young lady to my own daughters that I needed as a girl. And I want the program to teach other moms, because a lot of moms have children young and there is no manual with parenthood, you know, with motherhood. No manual comes with that, you know?
Yeah, you have to study more to get a driver's license than you do
Yeah.
to be a parent.
Yes. You don't get a manual, you know?
Right.
But it's easier when you have a community, a village, a sisterhood to help you to, you know, and help you get through those things with your teenager, with your child, or that child that you're not understanding. So we're definitely building a platform right now. It's interesting that you asked me that. It's
Well,
on the way.
I could sense that you're someone who can genuinely help these girls, that
Yeah.
you really get it. And your book is a great start. It's a great way to build your platform,
Mhm.
but there's more to be done. Like I could just sense that in you, and
Yes.
I'm hoping that platform continues to grow. You have a
Yes.
lot to be proud of in
Thank
what you accomplished. And I would just want to ask you if there's one thing that you're the most proud of, what is that?
I think the thing that I'm the most proud of is, and I just said that too, like for me, I have teenage daughters. I have a 18-year-old and I have a 15-year-old. She'll be 16. And I think the thing that I'm most proud of is that I've broken a generational curse that has lasted in my family for I don't know how long, and it was a curse with my mom and it was a curse with her mom. And I decided, even when my first child was an armed child, I said, this stops with me. This stops with me. So I think that my proudest accomplishment is worth more than gold. It's worth more than money. It's just learning how to. I pride myself in being the woman to my girls that I needed as a girl. I pride myself in that a great deal. Everything that I've done, over every single accolade I've done, that's my proudest accomplishment. Just being able to overcome that generational curse of being a young mom, and and kind of making your kids inherit that toxicity, that toxic relationship between mother and daughter. I had decided, this stops with me. I'm not gonna do this to my children.
The funny thing about kids though is we have these great plans and we do these things and they're learning, but then they go through these teenage years and we think, like, are they learning? Do they hearing anything we say? And they
Right.
push back again. But it's just that resilience is going to be important.
Yes.
Keep going.
Yes.
Keep being
Yes.
that role model, even when you're like, this is not getting through.
Yes. Yes.
So.
And they're listening. They're listening, like they are listening. I know at the time of my life, I'm sure my grandmother thought that I was not listening, and I was listening. Because I felt like, although I was angry, and I was angry because my own mom was not really present and she was not active, and it was only so much that my grandmother could do, I was listening. I acted out a lot, but I listened. And although it took a couple of years, I took a lot of things that she said to me, I placed them in my mental Rolodex. They were in my memory bank. And I came back full circle years later, and I said, okay, it's time to apply everything she said to me. And this is how I changed. So they're listening, just not at that point, but they're listening. So
it's good.
Yeah.
So where could our audience find you? We'll put your links to your book and everything at the bottom of the links to your Authority Magazine article. This will be embedded into your Authority Magazine article, but we'll also make sure that the links are there so people could find it on the podcast. Where else would you like people to reach out to you? How you'll have are you on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook? Where are you on social media?
Yeah, sure. So on social media, my social media handles, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn at Nikki T Anthony. I'm also on Instagram. I am on Facebook as well, Nikki T Anthony. I'm even on TikTok because I've realized, like, my audience is all on TikTok. They hang out on TikTok. So, that's one of the ways that I want to connect with young girls as well. And also the moms, just kind of showing different ways, like as a mom, how you can bond with your child, your young adult. So I'm on TikTok at the Queen of Storytelling. Readers can also reach out to me on my website. I am NikkiTAnthony.com. They can email me, let's talk at NikkiTAnthony.com. I answer on every single platform out there. And then of course, definitely to stay up to date, sign up for the newsletter for our community, because it'll definitely have, if you go on the website, it'll definitely have a lot of the upcoming information as far as like that online community that we talked about for the young ladies and also for the parents. So definitely that's the way you'll stay in tune with what's coming.
Well, that is awesome. I hope that a lot of young women hear this, and I hope that they're all reaching out to you, because I genuinely can see the authenticity in you. I can definitely see the passion and the resilience. And I think young women are very lucky to have you as a role model and a mentor. So with that, I thank you so much for joining me today on the Care to Lead podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for watching the Care to Lead podcast. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more videos and updates.